Welcome back, Sober Family. This is another episode of Recovery Talk, brought to you by PRP Recovery Power. I hope everybody's having a good weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed the last live a couple hours ago with Mariah. It was great, man. It was very, very encouraging. If you guys have a story to tell, please reach out to me. We can make that happen. I'm filling up my calendar for July. I would love, to have you on, sharing your experience, strength, and hope, because it can benefit somebody else. Somebody else, all of my or all of our pain, all of our suffering can benefit somebody else. So reach out to us on Pro Recovery Power, DM us, and we can make that happen. Today, now, coming up, my next guest is Summer, and the big question on everybody's mind is, why did Summer stop drinking? And we're all gonna find that out today. Let's see. Let's look for her. Oh, there she is. Get her in there, and she can tell you guys herself why she stopped drinking. Summer!
Hey,
Hey, how's it going?
it's going well.
All right. It's
How are
good
you
to
doing?
see you. I'm good. I'm really tired because of our trip and everything and the lack of sleep. Like my son, like you're a mother, you know how that goes.
I do.
Man, it was so we were on like lack of sleep already, and then we get there and he doesn't sleep through the night either. So
I
but
remember those days.
yeah, but it's life on life's terms today, kind of
Yeah.
thing, and
Speaking
it's
of
okay.
which, I just
Huh?
want to put out a standard disclaimer. My kids are downstairs. My mom is with them. But at any given time, I have two boys. They're 5 years old and 7 years old, and they are constantly on a mission to kill each other. So if you hear screaming, there's another adult here taking care of that, but it could happen.
Yeah, yeah, but thank you, for agreeing to, share your story with us. It's very inspiring and inspires hope. Very encouraging, for other people that are trying to get sober, and for people who are already sober. I've been sober for a little while, and I enjoy doing these, hearing somebody else's story, because I can always learn from somebody else. It doesn't matter for me, like where you live, what side of the planet you're on, if you're girl, boy, black, white, green, blue, orange, whatever. It doesn't matter, like how you got sober too. Like in general, like it doesn't, like I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter, but like for me, like, if you once struggled and you no longer do, like, tell me about it. Like, let's hear it. Like the road to recovery is not like one straight, like this is how you do it and that's it kind of thing. I thought that's what it was when I first got sober. But as time went on and as my mind, gradually opened more and more, I started to learn different things. What worked for me doesn't mean it's gonna work for John, for Mary, for Billy, all these kind of things. So, I seen your interview you did with Johnny, so I know a little bit,
Yeah.
about you and everything like that. But now, the Pro Recovery Power audience is really looking forward to it. The question on everybody's mind is, why did Summer stop drinking? Because
Yes.
that's your handle,
I know.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So everybody's at the edge of their seats, for this one. But Summer, before we get started, I just want to ask you, how long have you been sober?
So it's a bit over 7 months, 7.5 months.
All right. It's a big deal. I remember, man, I couldn't stay sober 7.5 seconds.
Right? I know.
I remember those days. That's a big deal. Right on. Congratulations. And where are you from?
I am from Southern California. I grew up in Whittier, which is a city in Los Angeles County. Now I'm in Long Beach.
Okay. How's the weather down there? Must be hot, huh?
It's not even. It's like 79 or something here.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like scorching hot up here.
Yeah, it's horrible everywhere else, but it's like perfect where I am today.
Yeah, all right on. And so what was your choice in drink and or drug?
Pretty much straight up alcohol for me. I
All
mean,
right.
I did try a few other things. I smoked weed fairly regularly, but it was never like a compulsive thing for me. It was more of just like a if I was around other people that were, or like at night. Toward the end of my drinking days, I was trying to drink less, so I was using it to sort of gain more intoxication when I was drinking. I would be like, okay, I'm only going to have a bottle of wine versus like 2 bottles of wine, but I'll have a bottle of wine and I'll smoke some weed. So that'll kind of hopefully get me to a better place. And I tried a couple other things. Like I tried Coke throughout, different times in my life, but it was never like a super, it was only like socially. I never bought it myself or anything like that. So mainly just enjoyed the drink a bit too much.
Right on. We're just talking about Johnny, and there he is. What's up, Johnny? What's up? What's grounded, fam? Okay, before I give the floor to your story, which I just want to say that to the audience that every Wednesday night, Pro Recovery Power, we host a recovery meeting. It starts at 7 p.m. It's on Zoom. So if you guys want to attend, you guys can look through our page. I post it a lot. If not, just DM me, and then I can go ahead and send you all the information. Also, on our website, prorecoverypower.com, the bottom like right-hand corner, there's a little, it's a survey questionnaire. If you guys could fill that out. The reason for that is that we would like you guys feedback, and we would like to know how we're impacting the community and also how we can improve. That all moves the vision of PRP forward. So at this time, Summer, I give you the floor to tell us your story.
Okay. All right. So I'm a little nervous here all of a sudden. I wasn't. Now I am. Okay. I'm ground myself here and I'll be all right. Yeah, so I come from a childhood that was pretty tumultuous. I grew up in a pretty violent and explosive household. My dad being the main perpetrator of that. I no longer speak with him. So just throw that out there right now, so you know the end to that story. I do not speak with my dad. That is a choice I've made as an adult. He was pretty violent toward my mother specifically. And so I grew up around that. That was always something I was conscious of. And then once my parents got divorced, my sister, who's 4.5, almost 5 years older than me, I was 11, I think, 10 or 11, once they finally got divorced. So she was a teenager, and so she started acting out a little bit more, and I don't want to go, tell her story for her. But I was basically in an environment where there had been all of these tumultuous things and all of these people having explosive anger around me. So I very much retreated and became this high achiever. I got really good grades. I never got in trouble. I never did anything wrong. And I just didn't want anybody to have to worry about me. So I really kind of just sort of retreated into myself and became very withdrawn, even among my family, just like a very private person. And then once I got to be a teenager, I started doing certain things. I drink here and there at parties or things like that, but I just never, nobody knew about it. I never told anybody, but I was very oh, just, again, it's don't worry about me. I'm over here. I'm getting good grades. I'm taken care of. I'm not doing anything wrong, But nothing too crazy as a teenager. I mean, the first time I ever tried alcohol, I was probably a little kid, super, I don't know, 7 or something. And my dad was like, here, try some beer, that type of thing. But I remember the first time I ever really was an occasion where I got way too drunk. I was 17 years old. And it was right before I left for college. It was at a party with my sister and with a bunch of people who are far older than me. And that began my binge drinking, blackout drinking career, essentially. where, yeah, I drank so much, and I was like psychotic by the end of the night. Just like I started like flipping out, and they were like, put me in a room by myself, and I started screaming that I was afraid of the dark and turned the light on. I don't even know. This is just what I was told afterward,
Oh.
That's the sort of thing. And then I went away to college in Houston, Texas. So I was 2,000 miles away from home, 17 years old. I graduated high school when I was 16 because I skipped a grade. Again, I was a high achiever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I probably had no real business being off on my own at that age, but I was. And, that's where I started drinking a lot. That's where I started drinking at parties and going out. And again, it was just this situation where I drank to blackout. I drank so much every time that I drank. I had no sense of like, maybe you can take it easy tonight. I was just like, I'm just going to drink until I can't feel feelings anymore. And that's just that was just how I operated. And it was a pretty dark time a lot of the time. And so I do want to, just as a little trigger warning for anybody, I am going to mention sexual assault. So if anybody that doesn't want to hear about that, peace out right now. But yeah, so I mean, I remember I was at a frat party, and I got super drunk, and I just was feeling like really not well. So I went up to my friend's boyfriend was in the fraternity, and his room was in the frat house that I was at. And so he wasn't in there, but I was like, I'm going to go lay down in his bed because I'm about to pass out. I don't feel well. And passed out. And I woke up to, I was not raped, but I was being sexually assaulted. I'm not going to go into details. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to make sure that I mentioned, because I really think that it's like, to me, one of the most powerful things, and this is not like a victim blaming thing, like I don't care how drunk I was or how drunk anybody's ever been, like you never should be sexually assaulted. That should never happen to anybody. But I think one of the most powerful things that you can do to protect yourself and to try to opt out of that culture is remove yourself from the drinking culture, especially in college, especially when you're in your late teens and early 20s, and there are these kinds of parties and these kinds of situations going on. I was in a dangerous situation, and I wish if I could tell any young woman of that age, one of the most powerful things you could possibly do to protect yourself is to not engage in that drinking culture. And so I think that situation, it just sort of increased my sense of worthlessness. And instead of like, at the time, instead of going like, wow, this is a really dangerous way that I'm living, and I really shouldn't be doing this kind of thing anymore, because these are the kinds of things that can possibly happen. I just sort of doubled down, and just felt like I didn't deserve good things, and I just kept going with that. So so throughout the time that I was in Houston, I didn't end up finishing school over there. I left early because basically I was just a mess by the last year that I was there. I was just like drinking way too much, and those were the times where I started dabbling a little bit and trying coke, and just engaging in all sorts of other risky sexual behavior, and not valuing myself in any way. And I started self-harming quite a bit when I would drink. I would cut myself, and that kinds of things would happen. And there was one occasion when my roommates actually ended up calling the police because I locked myself in the bathroom with a knife. And I didn't have the intention of killing myself. I wasn't like a suicidal thing, but it was just more of a self-harm situation. But if your extremely drunk roommate locks themselves into a bathroom with a knife, you call 911. That's what you do. So so I got taken to a hospital, and I told them, I'm not suicidal. It's just a self-harm thing, but I'm not suicidal. And so just all of these incidents were happening. And so I ended up coming back home to California and living with my family again. And throughout all of this, I'm just amazed now when I think about it, that throughout all of this, I just didn't think that I had, like, I just thought it was a mental health thing. Like, oh, there's something wrong with me. I have depression. I had these things as a kid that were catching up with me. I never connected it with like, wow, alcohol is making this a million times worse, you know? And it is true that I did have mental health struggles, and I did have these traumatic things from my childhood that were a part of the problem, but I just never thought like, hey, you know, if you stop drinking, maybe you can address some of these things and things can get better. I just didn't make that connection. And so yeah, I kept drinking throughout my 20s, had just a lot of other bad nights like that, where bad things would happen. And I just kept thinking that I knew that there were times that I drank too much. I knew that these things didn't happen to everybody. I knew that it wasn't like normal per se, but I just kept rationalizing it in my head that it was fine for some reason. Because, you know, like I wasn't in jail and I didn't, you know, whatever, just various things. You know, you think of the worst possible things that could be, and you're like, well, I'm not that, so I'm fine, you know?
Right.
And kept going. And then I had my 2 kids, and things got really difficult because I was pregnant 4 times within 3 years. I had a miscarriage before each of my children were born. So had a miscarriage, then had my oldest, had another miscarriage, and had my youngest. At that point, I was like, I you know, I only ever wanted to have 2 kids. I really wanted to have my 2 kids. And once I had my youngest, I was like, okay, never getting pregnant again. Like, I can't do this. But just hormonally and all of my mental health stuff and everything, like I was just sort of like a wreck of a human being by the end of all that. It was just a lot to go through in a short amount of time. And then right after on the heels of all that, I went back to school to get my master's degree after my youngest was born. And again, just diving into this like high achiever thing where I'm like, I just have to keep going. I can't stop. I can't, you know, I just have to stay on this track, and this is how I'll be okay. And it worked to an extent until I got my master's degree, and I was able to get a new position in my field and make more money and do all of this. And I just never really felt happy in my career. Once I got my master's degree, I kind of missed my old position where I had less responsibility and was making less money. And I just kept going. And this whole time I'm drinking too much all the time. It really, and then that's when I really started to rationalize things, because I would compare myself. Like, I didn't stop drinking when I was necessarily at my worst. Like when I was in my 20s and I was having these incidents where, you know, I was being carted off to the hospital, or I had various run-ins with law enforcement in various situations. You know, I was like, well, I'm not that anymore, so I'm fine now. Like, I'm a mom, I have my master's degree, I have all of these achievements. So I wasn't like at my rock bottom. I didn't stop when I was at my rock bottom. I felt like I hit a rock bottom, and then I sort of was engaging in like a harm reduction situation where I would try to drink less or have moments where I stopped drinking, then I'd always return to it. And so finally, when I did stop, I only tried to really stop. I only decided like I'm not drinking anymore once before this 7 months. And I lasted about 2 months. And then because of the pandemic, it was just too much for me at the time. So I started drinking again. And then once I decided to stop, I mean, it was such a nothing situation. I was just like, I had gotten I'd gotten drunk on Halloween, this past Halloween, and nothing bad happened. I mean, I woke up with like a giant bruise on my leg. I had no idea how that got there, but I mean, how many times has that happened in my life? And there was like I have these stairs, and there was like a hole in the wall in the bottom of the stairs. Still don't know how that got there. But I mean, it wasn't anything like big, you know. I guess to some people that might be like, well, if you're waking up to like giant bruises and holes in the wall, maybe that's a bad sign. But it wasn't any of the traumatic things that have happened to me before. But for some reason, I just woke up and I was like, I just can't keep doing this anymore. I don't want to live this way anymore. And I haven't. I finished up what was in the fridge that day. And then that was it for me. I just decided I'm really, really done. And I have not had any alcohol since November 2nd is my sober date. And that's it for me.
And you're keeping it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you, what did you do? Like, I kind of know your story, but so other people may not. How did you, so you just stop on your own, basically? Did you go in any meetings? Did you go to counseling? Did you go therapy or?
Yeah, so I'm not in a 12-step program, but I am in a recovery program that's called Tempest. And so I go to pretty much daily meetings for that. It is a recovery program. It's kind of like a really sort of female-centric program. And it's worked really well for me. I'm able to like share all the time, and I talk a lot. And but it's been really good for me because I've been able to kind of process in real time everything I'm going through. And I think it's so important. Like, I mean, maybe there are some people who can, everybody's journey is different. For me, I don't think I could do this on my own. I can't, it's really hard to, I think you can be sober on your own, but to really truly engage in recovery and healing and all of those things and really try to live a joyful life and not just be where I'm not drinking, but where I'm actually like improving my life and improving my mental health and growing and learning and all of that. You need community, you need feedback. And so that's been extremely necessary for me. And, you know, this Instagram community has been really important for me. I've made a lot of friends, a lot of important people in my life. Like, it's really translated into some real sincere friendships for me, that have, I mean, there's just been so times where I've been feeling like broken. I'm like, I just don't even know what to do anymore. And I'm able to reach out to people. And that's, you know, that makes the difference, because when you're sitting there and you're thinking you're the only person in the world who's ever felt this way, you know, that's such a dangerous feeling. But when you're able to communicate with other people and know that you're not alone, know that so many other people have felt this way, hear other people's stories, stuff like what we're doing right here. This is the stuff that I was watching and listening to in my very, very early days of sobriety. And even between when those first 2 months where I tried to get sober, and then when I started, like, I still was following Instagram accounts. I still was listening to podcasts. I still was watching things even while I was drinking, because I knew that at some point or another, I was going to have to get sober. I just knew, even when I was drinking, I was like, I know that at some point in my life, I can't keep doing this forever. So I kept watching things like this, and I kept I wasn't joining in on the conversation myself, but so that's been the biggest thing for me, is having a sense of community, getting that feedback, contributing now, sharing my story and things like that. So
yeah, you know, I feel the same way, you know, about being connected to a sober community or recovery community. You know, because it's like you said, like, it's more than just being sober and staying sober, you know, like, I could be sober, but I could still steal from you. I could still lie to you. You know what I mean? Like, nothing changed.
Yeah.
Like, I just no more drink anymore. You know what I mean? So, I'm glad that you brought that up, because, you know, I think that's important, especially for people who, like, if anybody was like me, where I thought the drug and the drink is definitely the problem.
Right.
But then I learned, well, what if you take that away from me? Your behavior is still the same. Like, you can still manipulate people and you can still use people. And I'm like, oh, so the problem is me then? I was like, oh, bummer.
Well,
but
yeah, I mean that's been kind of the hugest thing for me that to realize is that cutting out alcohol, stopping drinking was just it was the beginning.
mm,
It wasn't the end result. Like, okay, I stopped drinking, now
right.
perfect. I mean, it's like it's if anything, it's been like a million times harder um since I've gotten sober. But now I'm equipped to be able to deal with it in a way because I have space for it. I'm not clouding my mind. I'm not shutting down. I'm not denying all of these other issues because and covering it up with alcohol. Now I'm like, okay, I have the space to try to deal with this, and I have the capability to. And yeah, that was the sobriety part is the starting point. It's not the end goal.
Absolutely. I was just talking about that with Mariah
Yeah.
on my live at 12. Like elimination of our drinking was but a beginning. It wasn't like being sober in the beginning. Yes, being sober was the goal. And as I started to learn and I started to go, work my steps and stuff, I started to think, oh, wow, no, it's not. Like, that's where my life starts now that I'm sober. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I absolutely can identify and relate to that because a lot of people talking about it right now here in the comments about how it's just a symptom. I agree. It was just a symptom of my problem. Shucks, I was the real problem. Oh,
Yeah.
it was that I never really had a drinking problem. I had a thinking problem that manifested into drinking.
Yeah.
A drug problem, or a thinking problem that manifests into a drug problem, and control, and all these things. But having a community of people who are sober, I mean, it brings, a lot of love, a lot of compassion, accountability as well, because I need that. I will always need accountability, like the rest of my life, like, because it just it helps for me to continue to be honest, to continue to grow. Because once I stop being accountable, I'm telling people, you know what? I know everything already. Like, I get it. I know what you're saying, but I know, I get it. And like, I'm the problem though, but I'm saying, oh, I know. That used to be my favorite two words, man. I know. I'd say that all the time.
Yeah.
But some of the tools that I was equipped with in the process of recovery, I still have to remember, to pick up and use it when these opportunities present itself. Because like, if I never go, or any of us that are sober in recovery, if we never go through any kind of uncomfortability, Johnny posted a post about that today, any kind of challenges, resistance, like, growth is impossible. We'll never grow, ever. If life is just great every day and we have no worries, it might seem like that, but like, we go through hardships, we go through things, but people may not know because our attitude is still good. We're very, like, we've grown in patience, tolerance, we can show compassion, and we're not just you and judging people all the time and things like that, like how I did every day. That's just how I live my life, Oh
Well,
yeah, there we
I
go.
mean, I think that's the key. It's like I used alcohol in order to not experience that discomfort.
Right.
Anytime I started to feel those emotions, or anytime I started to have to face certain things, I wouldn't let myself. I would just, shut that
Mm-hmm.
up
Yep.
and use that. And, and even now I can find myself using other things in the same way that I used alcohol. Like, even,
Uh-huh.
I sit around and scroll on my phone for too long, or various other behaviors that I can engage in. And it's so easy to just try to find a way to numb yourself and not feel that discomfort and not experience that, because it's hard. Once you experience that, though, that's where you're going to grow. Because when I'm sitting there and I'm not feeling what all of these hard, difficult things, I'm not feeling that discomfort, then I'm not going to grow at all. I'm not going to, it's like once you experience that pain, once you really feel it, that's when you're motivated to get out of that.
Right.
And I didn't let myself feel that for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, now I'm having to, and God, it sucks, but
Yeah.
it's like this is where I'm gonna grow, and this is where I'm actually starting to feel like, oh, okay, I can see how the rest of my life is actually gonna be a beautiful life instead of
Mm-hmm.
just this whatever, you know.
Oh.
I went through so long of just kind of going with the flow, and I had goals and I was goal oriented and all of that. And I did try to, I'm not saying that none of that existed while I was drinking, but I also didn't really believe that I was ever going to have true joy in my life. I didn't see how that was ever going to be possible. And now I do. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
biggest difference.
Right. Like something that I've learned is about, speaking about growth, like growing along spiritual lines, being spiritually sick. Like I learned a lot of things. We can outgrow fear. Like growth in my 12-step program, I learned a lot about growing, especially along spiritual lines. But through the process of recovery, all of this stuff started in my 12-step program. Now, outside of it, I've learned like that growth mindset continued on into, and something I want to talk about with you as well, my physical health.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember, with your interview with Johnny, you talked about that and everything, but also growing in my relationships, in my marriage, in my finances. Like my 12-step program didn't teach me all this stuff, but it kind of kickstarted me
Mm-hmm.
into the process of growing in general. You know what I mean? It's things like that. So I get what you're saying, man. But speaking of that now, because it was also physically transformation for you as well. It wasn't just I stopped drinking and that's it kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, so yeah, what this last year once I went from my little brief stint of sobriety and then I started drinking again, between the drinking and the pandemic and the everything, I was experiencing a pretty deep depression during that time. And I stopped doing everything basically. And I gained a lot of weight and I just wasn't moving. I wasn't healthy in any way physically. So I started that process of trying to like lose weight prior to my sobriety. But once I actually cut alcohol out, it transformed from a like desire to lose weight and just like look better. And it transformed into much more of a fitness journey for me, and actually engaging in physical exercise regularly, and what that does for my mental health, what that does to and I mentioned this on the Grounded Phoenix podcast, but what I say is just that I felt like I was just trying to not feel my body or not feel anything for so long in my life. And so exercise and fitness has really been a way to ground me in my body and experience sensation again, and experience just what it feels like to be present in this body of mine and honor it, because I abused it for so long. And I hated my body. I hated most aspects of myself, without consciously ever saying that. But I did. I didn't have love and respect for myself. And that definitely translated into not having love and respect for my body. So engaging in regular exercise, I run pretty regularly. I love going on hikes. I've kind of gotten into some other things, and I really want to step it up more in certain areas. But yeah, it's really transformed how I look physically, how I feel physically. And it's really translated into a just a way, like I said, it's just a way of honoring my body and having respect for myself. And it feels really amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can definitely relate to the just not doing anything and just eating and putting on weight. Because I'm from Hawaii, and in Hawaii you learn how to eat all the wrong foods before you have teeth. You learn how to do all of that, honestly. And outside of drugs and alcohol, that was something that I never thought about it because it's part of my culture. But honestly, it was a struggle. Like just loads of like foods that just so bad for the human body.
Yeah.
And not I was about around 2 years sober around there when I started to kind of make amends to my physical body now, and kind of doing some sort of workout and eating. See, outside of not using drugs and drinking alcohol, like putting the right foods in my mouth was so hard.
Yeah.
Was very difficult. And then I started to kind of do some research and learn. Like nobody's teaching me this stuff in Hawaii, especially as a kid growing up. I never learned it in school. But what foods is good and this and that and workout programs and all this kind of stuff. And because again, it kind of along the lines of growth that I've learned in my program, but it transferred over to other areas of my life and everything like that. So I know, because I know you like to work out and stuff. You follow Jim, Valor Fitness,
Yeah.
Valor Rising. Okay, so so it's not tomorrow, it's next week Sunday. They do it's a little exercise 6K. It says low impact, but I could barely walk the next day after. Like we're all after the exercise. Like, so it's down in Santa Monica.
Yeah, I want to go to those one of these days. Next Sunday, I'm going to go on a 15-mile hike. So.
Oh dang! You're not joking about those hikes. 15 miles.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
I'm a little nervous for that one, but I know I can physically handle it, but I'm nervous for my feet. So I got to figure out how to care for my feet, because the last time I went on an 11-mile hike, like I was fine physically, except I had like giant blisters on my feet. So I got to figure that out.
Oh wow. Okay,
yeah.
well, yeah,
but
that's something I just thought about.
Like, because cool, all the different resources in the Los Angeles area for that kind of stuff. So
yeah, because I'll be there every event that they do. I'm there because I love the outdoors. I'm back into exercising. The gym is open over here where I live. My wife enjoys it as well, and like I'll take my son with me or with us and put him in this little thing, and then he just hangs out and he's jumping in his little jumper. We got him, and while we're working out, and it's great. And it's more. I'm meeting more people, honestly, that I've been friends with on Instagram specifically that I met in real life now. It's like oh wow, you're real. It's not just I see you on the screen on my computer or my phone or tablet. And it's a great way to build more community and make more friends, build more relationships, and this is awesome. So you talking about, working out and stuff. So it made me think of, inviting you to come to that, because it's great. It's awesome. Jim is such a great guy. I love what he's doing. I support him 100%. I'm all for it. So Summer, now that we're winding down now, I'm going to ask you a few questions now. The first one is, because you talked a lot about your mental health and how alcohol it made it really much worse, and scientifically, medically, that is absolutely correct.
Oh, yeah.
So the question is, how has your mental health changed since you've been sober?
So yeah, my mental health it's still something I struggle with. I've depression and anxiety. Depression is still a major thing that I have to monitor for myself. My anxiety has decreased significantly since I stopped drinking. I've noticed a huge difference. It decreased my anxiety levels. I'd never heard, before I got sober, I'd never heard the term hangxiety. The anxiety that you experience when you're having a hangover, but yeah, I didn't tie them in my mind, like the correlation between how I felt after I was drinking and my mental health. But now looking back, I can go, oh my God, yeah, I would feel just like I was dying, like the way my anxiety levels were just through the roof after I would drink. So yeah, I mean, it's not a cure-all. The fact that I have stopped, cut alcohol out of my life is not like, I'm not like, oh, I'm cured. Picture perfect mental health here. But it's better. It's much better, and it's also allowed me to have this space to address it in a more significant way, because I would go to therapy, or I tried. I'm not currently on any medication for depression or anxiety, but I tried it and I just didn't like the way it feels, and meanwhile I'm like constantly drinking and wondering why it's not getting better. And so again, it's just like, finally I'm like, I can see, and I think it's gonna be a lifelong struggle for me, but I can see ways that it's going to improve. I can see ways where I can actually make significant steps to address address my trauma, address
Mm-hmm.
the things that have contributed to, you know, the messed up brain chemistry that I also happen to have, you know. So, yeah, so it's definitely improved it by a lot.
Okay, awesome. The next question is, what is your relationship like with your kids today now that you're sober?
God, okay, parenting hungover is not good.
Oh, yeah.
I do not recommend it. It's terrible. You know, I remember, you know, just so many times of having to wake up early. And, you know, I still have to wake up early because my kids, but it's starting, they're 5 and 7, so it's getting a little better now. But, you know, there are times where they'd wake up at like 5 and I'd have to be up, and I was drinking until 2 in the morning because I didn't start drinking until they went to bed at like 8. And so it was just a mess. So that has helped my patience so much. Like I've always really struggled with my anger. I have a bit of an anger problem.
Oh, man, oh, you too?
Yeah, it's been a very destructive force throughout my life, let's just say. But that has changed so much since I cut alcohol out. And, you know, parenting with an anger problem is not good because kids are frustrating. You know, my kids, they're I mean, I love them more than anything in the world, but they're jerks sometimes, you know? They're like little kids, they're hard. They just are. I'm not going to sugarcoat parenting. I love them more than anything in the world, but it's a difficult process being a parent. And so, yeah, my patience has just increased so much. And I try to be really honest with my kids about, like, they know that I don't drink anymore. They know what, it's just cute. I was looking at, you called me this morning when I was in the car with them, and my 5-year-old was like, "Who is that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's somebody I'm going to be doing an interview with later." And he's like, "Oh, for sobriety?" And I'm like, like, they know what that is, and you know, I just try to, in an age appropriate way, share with them about that, and just honest with them as I can.
That's awesome. I think that's very important too, you know, with like your children, you know, that's great. Yeah. So the next question is, what do you do to maintain your sobriety today?
Well, you know, I have to just keep doing the things that worked for me from the beginning, because anytime I start to waver on those things, that's when I notice a difference in how I'm feeling with my mental health. And when my mental health goes downhill, that's when I start having dark thoughts about how I just want to destroy my life. And that's, you know, it's just a downhill thing.
Yeah.
So I really have to just maintain, keep going to the meetings that I go to, keep exercising regularly, keep remaining in contact with the sober friends that I've made, and keep reaching out, and just making sure I do all of those things. Like the things that worked to get me sober, I think are the things that I need to continue to do to stay sober. And that may evolve, that may look different as time goes on. I don't know. I mean, it's only been 7 months for me, so, you know, who knows 10 years down the road what that will look like. But I still think there are certain essentials, certain non-negotiable things that I need to make sure that I do regularly in order to maintain that. So also, I didn't mention this, but I meditate really regularly, and I have my own, you know, spiritual practice. I pray every day. Like before I wake up, not before I wake up, as soon as I wake up, before I do anything else, when I'm lying there in bed, I pray for everything, and, you know, helps me just focus my day. Because before, you know, the first thing I would do, where's my phone? That's the first thing I would reach for. So yeah, so those things are all essential for me, and I need to make sure that I do them, because once I stop, I notice a difference in how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I know that you like you try to do the sober thing, then you kind of you started drinking again, and you were, you know, still watching podcasts or listening to them and doing all these things. that you do now. So in this last 7 months, this is the next question. In the last 7 months, how have you avoided relapse?
Um, I think there have been times where okay. I'm not speaking clearly. Okay.
It's all good.
Yeah. So it's important for me to recognize that thoughts, cravings, emotions, all of these things occur. But I've really tried to reframe in my mind, like how I view those things, how I view a craving, how I view a thought, how I view negative emotions. I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. I am not my cravings. These are things that happen and
Yeah.
they pass, and I don't have to give into them. And just knowing that has given me a lot of personal power to move through them and just go, okay, this is what I'm feeling in this moment, and it's hard and it feels horrible, but I can move through this moment and come out the other side. Like just the other day, I was driving and I passed by a bar that I used to go to all the time, and I had this thought of like, pull over and get a drink. Pull over, get a drink. No one will ever know. You could go. You're by yourself. You could go and have a drink. No one will ever know. But I just kept driving, and that was a thought that I had, and it doesn't mean I have to do it. It doesn't mean I have to give into that. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. It doesn't mean anything. It's just a thought, and that's all it is. And it's easy to give too much power to those thoughts.
Yes, I agree.
I've only ever had in these past 7 months one moment where I felt like I was really truly in danger of drinking. It was back in February, and I was having just a really, really horrible day. There were things going on in my personal life, and I was like, I am going to drink. I'm going to drink tonight. Fuck this, pardon my language. I was just like, this is happening. And I don't know what gave me the ability to move through that moment, but I told myself, go to bed. If you still feel like this way in the morning, go ahead and drink. And I didn't feel that way in the morning. When I woke up, I was like, oh my God, thank God I didn't drink. But I think that was the only time where it was really almost going to happen. And I just, that's just my advice. Just like, if you really, really feel that way, just wait a little bit. Because those moments will pass, believe it or not. It doesn't feel like it in the moment, but it will pass.
Yeah, it will. It absolutely will. And that's so true what you talked about, the cravings, the thoughts, especially the thoughts. It's not the thought that comes and goes, it's the thought that comes and stays, kind of thing. Because I've had thoughts like that before. Like I don't really have them anymore, but like going to just go, I'm by myself or something. My wife's not with me. I just go to the bar, just go right there and just have a drink or whatever. And like I'm like nobody will know. So, but I'm like, yes, they will know, because I'm not gonna go just have one. I'll be there all night. You know what I mean? Like
and that's
I
the
never.
reality. Like, no one will ever know. Yeah, right, Summer. You're not gonna go and have one drink, and you know that. Like that would never happen.
Yeah. That'll never happen. And that has never happened. And that will never happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I never did one of anything.
And I know that about myself. Once I have one, then it's it. That's it for me. Once I have a sip, I'm like, okay, here's.
Yeah, but like same here. Like once I have one sip, all bets are off now.
Right.
Okay, Summer. So the last question I'm going to ask you is, what would you say to somebody that's struggling right now, that's trying to get sober? What would you say to encourage them?
I would just say, for me, one of the most powerful things has been seeing the many, many, many people out there who are living joyfully. Because I for the longest time, I didn't believe that I thought getting sober meant my life was over. I thought it meant I was going to be miserable and just wanting to drink for the rest of my life. And, and I know that that's a way a lot of people feel in the beginning. But that's not true at all. And I know that's hard. It's really, really hard to believe, and it's hard to see when you're in that darkness, but it's true. I mean, there is joy on the other side. And seeing all of the people out there that are living joyfully, that are living in ways that I never thought I could live. And even seeing myself, and I struggle, and there's a lot of stuff happening in my personal life that is difficult, but I have this inner joy and this inner, like, I feel alive for the first time, in my life, that I just completely did not feel for the longest time. And so I would say, look for the examples of the people that have made it out the other side. And like I mentioned before, like just know that negative thoughts will occur, difficult times will occur, but that doesn't mean that you have to give into them. And just like I said, just wait. Just if you have a difficult moment, just give it a little bit of time, and it will get better.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that one, because speaking for myself, active in an addiction or even in a sober state of mind, I would be led by my emotions a lot. You know what I mean? Like I feel like yelling at this person, so I'll do it. I feel like eating this and it's bad for me, but I'll do it. Right. I feel. Something in the process of recovery that I learned is that my emotions should always be submitted to wisdom, because feelings are fickle. They come and they go. They're not permanent. But the decisions that we make in the midst of these feelings can have a very long-lasting or permanent effect.
Absolutely.
On whatever it could be, the husband, the wife, the kids, the job, anything like that, So I'm glad you brought that up, man, and thank you so much. This has been great, man. I love doing these things, man, because I can learn so much myself and listening to people's stories, and but I mean, you're like right down the road. Eventually, we gotta meet up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Absolutely, it'll happen.
Yeah, but I will definitely keep in touch with you. But I thank you so much, Summer.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're truly amazing, man, and I'm sure you're inspiration to like women, to mothers, and even men out there. I can relate to you, and I'm a man, but I was taught that early on, in recovery, that focus on the similarities, not the differences. Right. I'm so happy I learned that, because my mind automatically was programmed to do the opposite already. Right. But thank you again. I really appreciate you, and I'll be in touch with you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Summer, have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Okay, you guys, that was Summer's story. Now you guys know why Summer stopped drinking. And it was amazing. She never stopped drinking at her bottom. It's amazing. But she still made a decision. No resolution. She made a decision. She decided. Words like decide, suicide, homicide means there's no coming back from it. She made a decision and she stuck with it. I'm so happy for her. Now, if you guys got a story to tell, or you guys know somebody who does, reach out to us. Send me a message. DM me. If you got my number, call me, text me. And we can make it happen. I'm filling up my calendar for July. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate all of you guys' support, all the love. Thank you guys so much, and have a blessed weekend.